أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين وعلى أصحابه وعلى جميع الأنبياء والمرسلين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. As we journey through the Quran, we heard the recitation of the 21st juz. I'll keep my talk very short because I think we are quite late. So I'll keep my talk shorter depending on the time. I don't want to extend the time for you to be here. So the longer the reading, the shorter I'll give my talk. So inshallah we can go home at a time which is most convenient for everyone. In Juz 21, we heard the completion of Surah Al-Ankabut. And here the revelation is referred to in this part of the recitation today. That the revelation sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the prophets and more particularly the Quran was meant to be recited, meant to be understood, meant to be implemented. And also the establishment of prayer is a means of keeping one away from evil and corruption. Also the etiquette and basis for interfaith dialogue is laid down. And also reference to the fact that none can deny the intricate workings of the creation of Allah manifested in the diversity of creation, that life of this world is but a fleeting life while the hereafter is eternal and real living. And those who strive in Allah's way will find guidance towards Allah's path, and always remember Allah loves those who do good. Surah Ar-Rum is a Meccan surah, makes historical reference to the Byzantine Romans, and in its opening, its title comes from that, Ar-Rum. It revolves around the fact that truth eventually triumphs. Whether it be fighting against the enemy, those who oppose the prophets, or whether it be just the faith in itself. Faith, fact, and truth must eventually triumph. It opens with an accurate prediction of the Byzantine Romans and their defeat at the hands of the Persians within a specified period. And time doesn't permit, but exactly the wording used in the Quran exactly came to pass as the Quran has mentioned. Also, there's a reflection on the natural world and that all creation serves a purpose, and we're asked to study the history of civilizations before us and to note that everything has a specified period of existence. Human beings are born with fitrah, a pure nature, a pure natural disposition. And Islam is a natural way of life that flow with the natural order of things. We are asked to consider how Allah grants life and revives life, and we can see it evident in nature, how Allah has created human beings, created spouses from the same species, and has facilitated compassion and in our relationships. He has created a variety of people and people who speak a multitude of languages. He provides sleep as a means of rest, facilitates the cycle of water important for sustaining life. We ask not to forget our experiences, because sometimes in expediency we forget to fulfill our social responsibilities. We're asked not to indulge in economic exploitation of any sort, and we're asked to avoid corruption, which often is widespread, and once again study the history of people and see what was the end result of those who were corrupt. Surah Luqman is a Meccan surah titled after an African sage who enunciates moral principles, and in his enunciation of these principles, it was done to his son, and Allah captured this advice which he gave to his son as part of divine guidance. The surah basically sheds light on moral values that promote goodness and respect. Surah Sajda is a Meccan revelation which takes its title from reference to the faithful who prostrate, make sajda to none other than Allah, and focuses primarily on belief in distinction to disbelief, and a reminder that success ultimately comes with faith. Allah is the creator who has granted us tremendous potential and capabilities which we do not always use effectively and for which we seldom show gratitude. After belief in the divine, the most denied reality is the denial of the hereafter. Unfortunately, when the hereafter occasions, people will regret and wish they could come back and do the good deeds that they were intended and made for. Ahzab is a Medinian revelation and takes its title from the Confederates or the Ahzab, Confederate tribes, who under the instigation of the Banu Nadir tribe in Medina, many of the other tribes formed a confederacy and tried to attack the Muslims in Medina, and they marched onto Medina and surrounded it. The events of the Battle of the Confederates are detailed, lessons are drawn, hypocrisy is revealed while the favors of Allah is mentioned, and the steadfastness of believers are lauded, and Allah makes reference to the Uswatun Hasana, the outstanding example of the Prophet in this surah. My brief focus today is on the verse, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُم مَّوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. A series of ayat in Surah Al-Rum, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, as I've referred to, creation, the variety of people, languages and colors and nature and natural phenomena, daylight and night, rest, sleep and work. Allah says, among the innumerable signs, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا, is that He has created for you spouses from the human race. لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا, in order that you may find tranquility in that relationship. وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُم مَّوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً, and Allah has put between you mawadda and rahmah. Mawadda, same word we used the previous day, 2 days ago. Wadud, Allah is wadud. The idea of love and compassion. And rahmah, of course, which is mercy. You see, the human being is a social being. And as a social being, we have the responsibility of being the most beneficial and least problematic. And specifically as people of faith. This responsibility begins in the closest circle of the community, the building block of society. It begins within the family. The ultimate testing ground for developing relationships is found in the home. Usually a family will mirror the same attitudes towards people outside that it has towards those within the home. And that's why in a well-known hadith, the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, إِنَّ مِنْ أَكْمَلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ إِيمَانًا أَحْسَنُهُمْ أَخْلَاقًا وَأَلْطُفُهُمْ بِأَهْلِهِ. Certainly, two things. The excellence of character and being gracious and loving to your family are part of the manifestation of the completion of your faith. The role of the family in overall structure of Islam can never be overemphasized. For there can be no society without family, and there can be no family without the union of marriage, and there's no marriage without love and respect. When Allah mentions marriage or relationship between husband and wife in the Quran, He described it as a relationship of love, of compassion, of mercy and harmony between two human beings in the verse that I have recited. Not only that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions these two human beings have entered into a contract, and Allah uses a term for that contract. He don't just say aqd, He said mithaqan ghalidha. And the word mithaq is the same term Allah uses when He says that He has made a covenant with His prophets. That means it's a sacred covenant. It's not just an ordinary contract. Allah used the word mithaq to indicate His relationship, the allegiance of the prophets to Allah and Allah's interconnectedness with them. That bond Allah refers to it as mithaq. The other time Allah uses the term mithaq is when we talk about husband and wife, mithaq and ghalidha, which means a solemn covenant, a solemn contract, a solemn agreement. Not only that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the relationship between husband and wife symbolically as hunna libasul lakum wa antum libasul lahun. They are like garments unto you and you are like garments unto them. Now it depends with which attitude you approach a text. Because if you have a negative attitude, you'll read negativity into anything. Positive attitude, an informed attitude, informed perspective, you see something else. Because Allah says you are garments unto one another. But the way people see garments nowadays is something which you wear for 1 year and after a while it becomes outdated, you discard it. Allah doesn't refer to that. We say, Hunna libasul lakum wa antum libasul lahun, doesn't mean that. It means maybe four significant dimensions of a relationship. One, a dress is a covering and considered one of the most fundamental needs of a human being. You know, they say roti, kapra or makan, food, shelter, and clothing. One of the basic needs of human being is a covering. And of course, keeping you warm in winter, hopefully, and cool in summer. The idea of covering. Secondly, a dress or a garment covers your nakedness from human beings and hides those parts which have to be kept hidden. It's a means of aura. It's a means of guarding your privacy. 3, it's the closest thing to the bare skin, which indicates intimacy. The closest thing to your bare skin is your clothing, intimacy. And 4, clothes are an adornment. So your relationship to one another is one of covering each other, protecting one another, being intimate with one another, and be a means of adornment for one another. After all, the relationship is founded, as the Quran says, on mawadda and rahmah, on love and compassion, and it's intended to result in sakina, which is tranquility. Many people have marriage licenses, but they don't have a married life. When two loving individuals come together through the bond of marriage, they become one in commitment to their relationship. Yet they remain distinct individuals with independent thoughts, with different feelings, with independent emotions and their own opinions. If one tries to make the other like himself or herself, then you've tried to marry yourself. Each one is unique. Accept that uniqueness. Each one has faults. Help one another in that regard. The wise ones among the Sufis have said, a relationship of all kinds, like sand held in your hand, like the beach sand, you know. When you pick up sand on the beach, some of it falls out, but if you hold it like that, it'll stay in your hand. If you try to grip it tight, it'll run out through your fingers, and eventually nothing will be left. Don't throttle a relationship. Gently. Hold relationships gently. Because when you get married, it's only the paper you sign in public. Marriage is not the paper. It is the commitment to live a life of love and respect. Unless you have that, you only have a piece of paper. Many couples are together, yet not together. For though they live under one roof, they live separate lives. And togetherness is far more than sitting at the same table and far more than sleeping in the same room. There must exist different dimensions of togetherness. There must be an emotional togetherness that emanates from being attuned to each other's feelings. Have you noticed when people are angry, when they're hostile, they shout? When people are angry, enemies shout at each other. When people know each other, they talk. When they're close to each other, when they love each other, they whisper. And when they truly love one another, they just have to look and you know what they want and what they mean. Too many of us shout too much and look too little. There must be an emotional togetherness that emanates from being attuned to each other's feelings. An intellectual togetherness, and by this I don't mean someone came to me some time ago, Sheikh, no, I wasn't, now I became a lawyer now. My wife is not so intelligent like me. So, I think, maybe I should move on, I said, Rasul received wahi. He didn't leave Khadija because he received wahi. It doesn't mean that you become intellectual togetherness means now you must become a professor and I must be a professor. If you're a rabbi, I must become a rabbi. No. It just means that you must be able to communicate, sharing thoughts. If you are wiser, you can understand a simpler thought. If you can't understand a simpler thought, you are none the wiser. Just because you have degrees and titles or whatever, it doesn't mean that you are more intelligent necessarily. Maybe you had more opportunity. But intellectual togetherness that allows for sharing of thoughts, of ideas and opinions. A work togetherness where there's involvement in performing household chores and everyday tasks. There must be a recreational togetherness where you enjoy, have fun and excitement together, whether sunset on the beach or watching a game, or whatever it may be, together. Not, I've done my job, I've taken you out shopping or wherever, no, I'm done for the week, leave me. I'm going to my golf now to hit the ball and walk and reduce the score. A crisis togetherness where you can lean on one another to support one another, that if the whole world falls apart, you are still there for one another. There must be an aesthetic togetherness where you appreciate beauty. Beauty in each other, beauty in the world around you. The Rasul said, if husband and wife hold each other and look at each other lovingly, for each touch, Allah will remove the sin, and for each loving glance, Allah will remove a punishment. a spiritual togetherness by which we can inspire the best in each other. That's why the Rasulullah said to the women, the best of women, زوجة لا تبغي خوفا في نفسها ومالها. A faithful wife who does not in any way undermine her husband or betray her husband in his personality or in his belongings. And to the men, Allah says, وَعَاشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Live with your wife in keeping with the best of standards. And the Rasulullah told the Sahaba, أَلَا أُخْبِرُكُمْ بِخِيَارِكُمْ. Shall I inform you who among you are the best of all of you? And some thought the one who prays the most, the one who made the most jihad. أَلَا أُخْبِرُكُمْ بِخِيَارِكُمْ. The Rasul said, مَنْ لَا مَنْكَبَهُ وَحَسُنَ خُلُقَهُ وَأَكْرَمَ زَوْجَتَهُ إِذَا قَدِرَ. The best of you is that respectful gentleman, the one who has good manners and the one who treats his wife the best. And another hadith, خِيَارُكُمْ لِنِسَائِهِمْ. The mark of the goodness of a man is measured by how he treats women. I leave you because it's about relationship and I have 2 minutes to conclude. The Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, hadith documented in Bayhaqi, is reported to have said, because relationships, when they are lost, then we want to cry over those things. While people are alive, we don't value that. And don't forget, your wife or your husband is your wife or your husband. It's someone else's mother and someone else's father. Someone else's brother and someone else's sister. Someone's daughter or granddaughter or grandson. You're one person, but you're 1,000 different things to 1,000 different people, meaning 1,000 different loves and 1,000 different connections. Respect that. My wife is my wife, but she's the mother of my children. She is my beloved, but paradise lies beneath the feet for my sons. You need to understand that. Respect that. We don't have this. The Rasul reminded us, عِشْ مَا شِئْتَ فَإِنَّكَ مَيِّتْ وَأَحْبِبْ مَا شِئْتَ فَإِنَّكَ مُفَارَقَةٌ وَأَعْمَلْ مَا شِئْتَ فَإِنَّكَ مُجْزِيٌّ بِهِ. Introspect very carefully. Hadith said, live as you wish. You must die someday. Live as you wish. Someday it will come to an end. Love what you love. Someday you must be separated. And do what you want. Someday you will be paid back for it. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.